I want to talk about the topic of rebellion for a moment here. I know that rebellion against God is deeply frowned upon, and that is because we have been terrified by passages in the Bible that say rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. You just don't rebel against God no matter what. But what I want to bear out here is what we are consciously aware of are only the concepts that have been planted in our mind and in our subconscious through the traditional teachings about rebellion. Rebellion has been so discouraged, under threat, that we don't dare rebel. We don't dare even entertain the notion. But what is rebellion against God, really? In my own experience, and I have had to inch my way toward the borderline. Actually, I have crossed the borderline, but it took a few tries and pushes to edge me close enough to the line to eventually cross it. But I have found out that the borderlines were only concepts that were created in my mind, belief systems. And even the concept of rebellion against God is just a mental concept that was created by the religious tradition and upbringing we came into the world with. And what is rebellion? What is rebellion against God? I'd like you to think and ponder that. First of all, you have to define what God is. If you have defined God as a person and persona, then yes, there is the obstacle of rebelling against that particular person or identity. There is actually someone there to rebel against. And what kind of consequences do you believe your rebellion against such person will invoke? We're dealing with beliefs now, not actual reality. Because quite frankly, everything that we believe, even the things we experience, get framed by our mind, subjective mind, and these things become conceptualized reality. So how would you rebel against God? I have rebelled against God, quote unquote, rebelled against God, against all the concepts that I have formed around the idea and definition that my mind has given to God. Primarily, God was an authority that was above me, and you don't rebel against authority. That's another thing we have learned from when we were wee little. You don't rebel against authority. You do as you're told. And this is now a strong subconscious program in our unconscious mind. And you may not even give it a thought to rebel against God because your soul has been so domesticated that that thought in itself is anathema. So it's suppressed. It's not even going to show up to the surface mind. But rebellion is essential. If the soul is ever to come alive, rebellion is essential. At some point, you are going to have to rebel against everything that is above you, that has set itself above yourself. And I'm not talking about ego, because ego is the nemesis that has set itself above our soul and keeps it in suppression. Ego is the lawgiver that tells us what you can and cannot do. It's the God of this world. And so, in one way, you have to rebel against your ego, first of all. Ego is the representative of all that we call God. Kind of reminds me of that scripture verse. I think it's in Thessalonians somewhere. It speaks about the one that comes after the working of Satan. And it sets himself up in the temple of God as if he were God. And that is our ego mind. That is our ego. It's our lawgiver. And that's the one our soul needs to rebel against. Our soul actually is the true God. Our soul is the essence of true God that has been taken captive by our ego, the God of this world. And so rebellion is essential. I want to encourage you to not be afraid to rebel against the concepts your mind has created around what God is. Rebel. You cannot rebel against the true essence of God because you are that. You would be rebelling against yourself. And you can't rebel against yourself, but you can suppress yourself. Do you subconsciously fear the threat of rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft? Are you afraid to sin against God? Then you have to sit and ponder for a while what God is and how to rebel against it. How can you rebel against God? Or are you simply rebelling against unreasonable concepts that call itself God? Rebellion is essential, and I encourage you to your own soul rebellion. Awaken. You must do that in order to awaken. You cannot be afraid, and you cannot maintain an overlord if your soul is ever to experience sovereign freedom as the divine soul that it is. I hope this helps you embrace the idea, the notion, the feeling of what if I rebel? What if I taste the cup of rebellion. I say, do it. Do it. You won't regret it.